Or I could just hum the Shining Force theme the entire time.
You want to do that for the intro?
No.
Oh, I was gonna let you. Hello and welcome back to the Nihil channel and to the first Shining Force tier list. Some controversy here. That's what we're gonna get into. So, we are doing the Battles of Shining Force. And this is going to be a more objective than subjective list. That's what I'm going for. Because if we just do subjective, I can just go, well, I like it, and that's it. So, yeah. My co-host for this today is Chaos Wizard, who is making his own Shining Force fan game, which leads me to think that you have thought about map design a little bit.
Not at all.
Not at all? Okay, well, perfect, because maybe the developers didn't either. We're gonna
They definitely didn't for some of them.
We're gonna go in order. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Battle 1. I'm thinking Battle 1 is an A. I think it's real good. My reasoning for that is because it's a really good intro to the game. It doesn't hold your hand too much. There's not too much of a tutorial. It just kind of lets you mess around in a small map and figure out what everybody does, and I think that's pretty good.
It is definitely, being the first battle, it is pretty memorable. I probably wouldn't put it at A personally, but definitely probably B tier, because like you said, it is pretty quick, and story things happen. So
I'm putting it at A because I'm also comparing it to the other level 1s of other different SRPGs, and I think this is one of the best level 1s ever.
There are other SRPGs?
There's a couple, I've heard. Battle 2.
There's only Shining Force.
Battle 2. Keeping the same logic of comparing this to other SRPG games, and also pacing of the game as a whole, this goes right down to F. Reason being, immediately you have to go through a bunch of terrain that slows down your movement and funnels you through a one tile corridor. So that's awful already. The player doesn't know how revive mechanics work, so you might not have your full force. So you might try to just brute force this without your full force, and you might lose for that reason and then have to start it over. Either way, if you want to pick up Gong at Gong's hut, you have to stop the battle and skip through until you get to Max's turn to do that. And
I would put it... I would
this,
personally...
Real quick, all of this is somebody's first exposure to what Shining Force is. You get through Battle 1, and you're like, okay, I kind of see what we're doing here. And then you start Battle 2, and if I were a new person that had no idea what how amazing this game got, I could totally see people going, I think I'm done. I don't want to keep playing. And that is the worst thing that you can do, pretty much for any map. To just immediately have somebody go, nah, I'm done with this. And when you put this bad of a map in spot 2, that's not good. So what would you put it, Chaos Wizard?
I would put it at D tier just because there are maps that are way worse.
Oh, we can put things below this. Don't worry, we can. Next, we're just going in order. So next is Battle 3. You've reached Guardiana, and you are leaving Guardiana to try and go to the next town.
That's either B or C, in my opinion.
I am gonna go C, because of the bats.
Oh, yeah, forgot about those.
Yeah, is it still a B for you?
Nope.
Yeah, the bats have the possibility to put you to sleep. Do you know what the chance of that is? Is it 25%?
It's 25.
Yeah, they have a 25% chance to put any of your party members they attack to sleep, and then each party member has a chance to wake up, and that chance is what, 25? No, it's gotta be higher, like 75% chance to wake up?
No, I think it's a 25 each roll.
Oh, wow. And there's no limit to that, so you could just stay asleep for a long time. It is really annoying. And coming off of the Battle 2, it's pretty rough.
What's the longest time that you've ever had a character asleep?
4 or 5 turns. Like,
oof, those are rookie numbers, buddy.
yeah, and then when you wake up, that is your turn as well. So even when you wake up, you're like, hallelujah, and then you don't get to move. What's the longest for you?
Oh, probably like 10. Max on Battle 1 of Chapter 2, he got stunned right at the beginning. Every single other character was at the Wizard City, at the back of the map before he woke up.
That's hilarious. I've not had it go that badly for me.
I couldn't egress either because he was sleeping.
Great. You're just stuck in this purgatory of waiting.
Yep.
All
it's
right.
always fun.
Battle 4. You've made it to the next city, and you are captured because Runefaust has taken over. I put this solidly an A. And my reason being is that there's 2 different ways for you to approach this. You can split the party. Actually, I guess there's 3. You can split the party and send some people up. It's really small on this diagram here, but I'm going to use it. You can send half your party up to fight the enemies that are up here and send the other half around, or you can send both parts around, or you can send both parts to the left. You can. There's lots of different ways to approach it, and I really like that. To me, that is part of what makes a good SRPG map, is that there's different approaches to conquer it.
It's decent. I would probably personally put it at B tier, but you do make a lot of good points.
I might move these as we go on, and as I remember other things. You know, something else might kick these down to B, something else might... No, that's staying enough. Next, we have The Journey to Monarena.
Oh, that's gotta be C or D.
I'm thinking D or F. I'm thinking D.
It's not a... Yeah, D's fine. It's not a bad map. It's just half of the map is zombies and sand. And the game doesn't have a tutorial that tells you, hey, you can sneak around, which is definitely the intended route for that battle.
Yeah, he's talking about sneaking around to the left,
yeah,
behind the mountains and stuff, and then you don't have to fight.
Yeah,
quite
sending
so much.
sending Max that way, and then the others the other way around. But yeah, and then the bats also sleep you, and then there's that bridge at the very beginning.
I've gotten stuck on that bridge for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's one where it's like a 1-tile battle, and you just gotta sit and wait.
Then that one character either falls asleep or misses the bat 6 turns in a row.
It's not good. So
yeah.
Next, we come to under Mount Arena, under the Mage College. You have to go get the Orb of Light, and there's a cave battle. And I'm thinking that one's a B. It's pretty fun.
It's fun, it's memorable, and it's a really nice level design.
Yeah, and it's long, but it's not too long. Like, it's the perfect length, I think. I don't know, maybe that one needs to go up to A. We'll have to think about that. But an easy A, and the next one, it actually might be S.
Oof,
the circus battle.
In terms of how memorable it is, easy S tier. The reason why I would debatably put it at A tier is only because it is way too difficult as a new player being that early on in the game.
True.
Like Freeze 3 can wipe out your entire party. But
okay, I agree. I agree with your.
I think it is for that reason that you could certainly consider it as tier 2.
Yeah, I don't know, because bosses should be scary, and even if you get wiped out, the run back is not that far. It's not a very big map.
Right.
So that does make me feel better about it. I'll leave it an A for now, but I might change my mind here in a minute.
Top
So
of A tier.
that ends that chapter. The next chapter, we have the church.
Oof.
This is another A or
Yeah.
S. It's really good. It starts with Max at the top, and you've got to rush the rest of the force in to defend Max and help fight off the zombie horde. I think this
I would
one's
go with
really cool.
I would I would go with A tier as well. Basically for the same reason, but um the zombies have a very high defense, and so a lot of your characters don't have the attack power to deal with them, so you're dealing like twos and threes the entire time,
Yes.
which is somewhat annoying. But
Yeah, it's also hard for me to put myself in the shoes of a new player at this point, because I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm doing fine. I've got Teo and Henri, like, doing a bunch, and then Max is decent by that point, but it's like, yeah, I know this is coming, and, like, I've, kind of worked up for it already. But I really like that it's another kind of different objective, and this is before we really had that. I've talked about in some of my other SRPG videos that kill all enemies gets really boring if you just have to do that for forever, and that's every single objective. I like escape maps, I like defend maps, I like all sorts of different kinds of objectives. And this is one of the few that kind of gives you something else with, like, kind of defend max and, get your party back together. It's a little bit more original in that way.
yeah, it is certainly a especially as a new player coming into it, and it is just like a very different thing. Plus, like, your main character is surrounded by an entire army of things that can kill it. Not to mention poison.
Yeah.
Um, it certainly terrifies you in the beginning.
Gives you that sense of tension that you are not sure if everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. Plus, leading up to it, all the town's villagers are like they know it's basically coming.
Yeah,
They're all acting weird.
it's pretty cool. The next one, I'm thinking C. It's fine. This is
Yeah.
when you get to the quarry and you're fighting through the quarry. It's fine. Like,
It's a cool looking map, but that's basically all it's got going for it.
the coolest thing, I think, yeah, I'll bump it up to the top of C. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this one also has different ways you can approach. This is your first map where you have access to your two Birdmen characters. And the boss, the final boss, that is the only thing you have to defeat, is within the starting line range of your two Birdmen. It takes like 1 or 2 turns to reach the boss. So it's maybe not the best idea in terms of leveling your party, getting as much XP as you can. It's not optimal, but you can have your Birdmen just go and murder the boss right out the starting gate. If they have high enough stats, if you've given them the right items, maybe you use a power ring or something. I don't know if you have one by this point. But it's definitely
Yeah,
possible.
you get it.
You get it
You
when?
get the power ring in chapter 3, the first
Okay.
town, or chapter 2.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's doable. And I do believe that's what the speedrun does. But once you finish the quarry and you leave that area, we come to this massive forest. And this is gonna go at the bottom of D.
Yeah, easily.
There's not a whole lot else to say. It's a massive forest, and you just gotta walk through it real slow.
Definitely some of the worst battles in the game.
Yeah, it's a little bit better that you're given Xylo, which is one of the coolest characters in all of Shining Force, right before this, so it helps that, like, you get to play with a new character. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it's not a great map. It's just walk slowly to place. The place you're walking to, though, easily S tier map. The
Yeah.
laser eye battle. Both
Probably the most
subjectively
memorable.
and objectively. Subjectively, because yeah, it's one of the most memorable. Objectively, because this is another one. You can use your Braidman and just fly across if you want to try that. But outside of that, I have watched new players play this one somewhat recently. I have friends that wanted to get into Shining Force, and I watched them play this. And even if you don't know what's coming, the fact that it constantly is doing a countdown saying, 10, 9, charging up, 3, 2, 1, they all got that, like, something is coming. I don't know what's coming, but I need to get out of the way. I need to, do something to mitigate what's about to happen. So there is a pretty good indication of what's coming.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's still one of the most original SRPG battles I've ever seen. I haven't seen much else like it.
In terms of like fan games and stuff too, I like ever since I started, before I even had like anything working, that was like the number one question that I got all the time is there gonna be a laser eye battle? Is the laser eye working yet?
I can see why.
Like, I barely have combat working. So yeah, it definitely left an impression on a lot of people.
For sure. The next one, if I was doing subjective, I would probably put it here. I really like this battle. Or here. But objectively, it annoys a lot of people. For good reason. So it's gonna come all the way down to like here. Here or
I wouldn't put it down. I wouldn't put it down that far. It is a boss fight. It is memorable because it is just like one giant open thing.
The way we're laying this out, yeah, it's not as bad as Battle 2 or that one. So, the thing that puts it all the way down here, though, is that you start real far from the enemies, and I think they were going for like a Braveheart feeling, kind of like two armies charge into each other. But as many people before me have said, this game is turn-based. That happens slowly, not quickly. And I appreciate what they're going for. But
if they put you 1 or 2 turns closer,
that would be appreciated, yes. So, unfortunately, the Elliot fight has to go down in C tier. The other good things that I can say about it is I think Elliot feels really good as a boss. He's fun to fight. That battle is just the right amount of difficulty. I think it's really fun. But, yeah. The next one, you have to go into the forts. What are we feeling on that?
Would probably put it... I would go B tier. It's a unique map. It's not horribly slow or anything like that. But it also doesn't have, like, a lot going on there.
For me, I think it's a little bit lower. Because this one always has felt kind of just placeholder to me. It's not as bad as these, but it's just okay. But it's more interesting than this one, so...
They could have upped it a little bit more with the precursor to the Bulbasac fight. Like, you were fighting to get into the city to deal with Bulbasac, let alone how this just kind of feels like you're just kind of walking through the front door.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll leave it tentatively at the end of B. Next is the Bulbasac fight in the harbor. I'm thinking here.
Yeah.
Top of B. It's fine. It's a small map. This is the best one, notably for grinding, because it's a small map. People give decent amounts of experience to your party members. This is where a lot of people tell me if they have not promoted yet, this is where they decide to promote. They grind here until they can. But overall, it's just fine. I don't hate it. It's hard to hate it because it's over so quickly. I like that it's in a harbor. Like, it's a little bit of a nice change of pace, a change of scenery. Um, the enemies are not too annoying. There's a little bit of cover for you to kind of push through here, turtle through here, and then Balbazak you can kind of deal with in your own time. It's
Not to
decidedly...
mention, Bulbazak just has like, a really cool character design too,
Yeah, he's got a cool
which
character design.
helps for a boss fight.
It does. Next is the first boat map. The first of two. I
Yeah,
really
quite solid.
struggle to tell these apart.
That is fair. Yes, they are
Um,
basically the exact same.
I like that it changes music, because that doesn't happen very often. In terms of actual battle, I like that you can kind of form up battle lines and stuff, and...
It's
Let me
memorable,
think about
but it's
this.
also there's not a lot going on there. There's a lot of unique enemies and stuff, but
Yeah. But the
in terms
gameplay
of
is really good in terms of forming up battle lines and things.
yeah, it's certainly not a bad map.
I'm gonna put it here. I think it's actually decent. You know, I'm not feeling good about Bulbazak. I'm really not. I think it's much more average. I think it's meh. I'm gonna move it down a lot. Because it's just okay. There's nothing... there's very little that forces you to, as a player to react. You're just not reacting to a whole lot. In this one, you're reacting a lot more. In the same way that the things that I think make SRPG maps more objectively good is forcing the player to react to things, like kind of like a puzzle, where I'm putting you in situations that you've got to really figure your way out of using the tools that you have, and by tools I mean the playable characters that you have. And this one, this kind of group of maps here, you really have to draw battle lines a lot more than you do for Bulbazak. Bulbazak, you can kind of just take your time, laze around a little bit. I think the only ones that come at you are the Pegasus Knights that are over the water, and Sea Bats, and even then they don't rush you very, very fast. You can kind of just take your time. So, that's my thought, putting that at the bottom of C. Next... Oh, I was doing Bulbazak, but then, yeah, that's also why the boat's here. You good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Alright, next, we go down below Worrell and see our first peek at the Ancients. What do I feel about this one? It's pretty big. The boss fight's kind of interesting. See, I played Shining Force Alternate, which makes this a lot more interesting, because there's constantly spawning enemies that really push you to do things. And the original doesn't have that. I think this is another one that's kind of meh.
Yeah, I think a lot of that chapter's enjoyment comes from the actual town and less the battles.
Yeah, I agree. Because you're in a boat, you're going across things, but this is all subjective enjoyment. Objectively, as a map, it's eh. It's just not anything special. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just okay. The next boat one, I can't tell the difference.
There really isn't.
I might put it
I
at
think
the top of
I
D,
would.
just because they didn't do enough different. And I still have some, like, subjective enjoyment, because it's a different... it's different.
The first time around, it's really nice because it's like an entire different environment. But the second time around, it's like you've seen the same thing.
Yeah, that's why I'm putting it in D. It's an okay fight that you've done again, and you can't just, that would be true for any of them. If the laser eye fight, which is my top ranked fight right now, if the next, 3 battles later, they had you just do it again, it would not be that high. So the next one, you arrive, and this is another walking map. Which one is this?
This is going up.
Okay. This one, I'm gonna put here.
I would put it. Yeah,
It's
above. It's certainly above the other one because it goes by a lot quicker. But
It goes by quicker, and there's an ambush, which is something. Because there's golems that pop out, and you can be like, ah, golem. And that can kind of throw you a little bit. So that's kind of...
Is that also the first ambush of the game?
It is. This is also... It's funny. This one I said, like, you get a little bit to get you through it because you get a new playable character in Xylo, which is fun to play around with. Similarly, this is the first battle where you get Lyle, which is a centaur with a bazooka. And that's super cool. And it hurts it in this one because Lyle can't walk through any of this terrain. So they give you a new toy to play with, and you can't use it. Or if you want to, it's really, really difficult. He moves really slowly through this.
And that's also the point in the game where every character that you get beyond that point is too under-leveled to actually use.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I don't like this map. It's just kind of a slog, and while the ambush is cool, it's not cool enough to move it up any more than that.
Yeah.
Next, we have Dragonia. You make it through the forest there to Dragonia, and you have to fight Kane. This is kind of a fun fight. Am I thinking average? I'm going to drop it here just for a second, because I don't like how that is constantly popping in and out for another row. Let me move that a little bit better. Okay.
Are we taking story reasons into account?
No. No, we are not, because that would be subjective. This is the objective list. I think that might be where it goes. There's a boss that's a little bit better, actually. So maybe here.
It's more difficult of a fight, and it's decent for that point in the game, but a lot of it is like you've dealt with all of the enemies, you heal your team, and then you just surround the boss.
Yeah.
And hope he doesn't desol you.
Very true. I think I feel good about it being here. It's a little bit more fun than the harbor fight, but that's also for story reasons. I think it's worse than the harbor fight. Because it's a bigger map, and there's just not a whole lot of challenge in it at that point, if you're not grinding. Which is something that I know a lot of people are going to come at me and be like, what are you talking about? The majority of the way that I play Shining Force is not grinding at all. So that's the perspective I'm coming from. And that is the perspective I think you should approach SRPGs from, talking objectively. You can't, expect somebody to be like, oh, well, if you restart the harbor fight 6 times, it's super easy. It's like, yeah, probably, but I'm not expecting a first-time player to do that. What were you going to say about that?
It is a slightly bigger harbor fight.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, just in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The enemies are more spread out, too.
Yes, and maybe we'll do a subjective tier list later. If that's something you're interested in seeing, let me know. And because, like I said, I've got feelings about some of these, but... Next, you come back to the same map, but this is the one where you gotta go down, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the worst map of all time.
You think so?
Yes.
I'm comfortable putting it in F. I still think it's better than Battle 2. Because Battle 2 comes so early, and I'm taking that into into account. I think you are more likely, if you are a first-time player of Shining Force, you are more likely to quit on Battle 2 than you are Battle whatever this is at this point.
Yeah, from a new player perspective, sure.
At this point,
But
you're invested. But
but
yes, it's really bad.
the that is the longest battle in the game, and especially because like most people, they probably just as a new player, they're going to be swapping out their characters a lot more. Thus, they're going to be a lot more under leveled. So they're not going to be able to probably even have knowledge of the Birdman trick to go clear those enemies at the bottom. And if they are, they're probably not going to be able to survive that. And so you're still spending like an hour and a half on that fight alone.
I've never done the Birdman trick. Usually it takes me about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, if I'm playing not for YouTube. And yeah, it does just take a ridiculously long amount of time. I don't think anybody defends this map, honestly. I think that we could go on and on about how terrible it is, but I don't think anybody wants to fight us on that, so I think we can just move on and all agree that it's one of the worst maps of all time in any SRPG ever. And all of that on top of, it's a map you have already been on at least once.
See, my thing is like right at that section, that little tiny path through the mountains, you have some guys there.
Yep.
But then you have this long stretch of basically nothing until you get to the guys at the bottom. And so you're basically just, it's Elliot fight times 10.
I would agree. It's just a lot of nothing. But when you do finally get to the bottom, you get to Michaela. And let's see. C at minimum. Is it a B fight?
I would argue yes.
Why would
you have several things going on. One, you start basically next to the boss, but she runs away, which is
okay, yeah,
unique at that point. Two, it's a character, an enemy that's been hyped up since the beginning of the game.
That's a subjective thing.
Which, yes, but you have the Sword of Light, which you can loot from the chest. There's a lot of other really decent items and stuff in the map that you can grab. And overall, it is a difficult fight with her level of Bolt.
Yeah,
so
it is. It's not too bad of a run back if you die. The enemies are decently difficult. There's at least something going on with these guys here. And yeah, you made a good point that she actually does start right in front of you and then flees, so you can try and catch her. Like, it's kind of fun.
It's basically very similar to the Laser Eye fight in terms of functionality, except in this instance, the massive AoE goes off every turn instead of once every 6 turns.
Yeah, so I'm happy with that where it is. The next one, which one is this?
The road to Runefaust.
I barely remember this fight.
So that one just kind of speaks as to how good that one is. It's another really, really long one. It's kind of the inverse of going to Dragonia. Going to Dragonia, you have the easy, quick like first half of the map, and then the long-winded second half, whereas this one, it's like the inverse of that. So like the first part of the map is really, really slow. And then like the second you get out, you basically sprint your 3 guys that are 6 turns ahead of the group down and take out that last group.
Okay, yeah, I remember this. I think here is fine. Because it's the 1, 2, 3. It's the 4th time you're seeing this, essentially. So
yes.
we're just gonna put it here. It's not as bad as this. It doesn't take quite as long, but it's the 4th time you're seeing it.
The reason why it's rated so high in this case is because the one before it is so bad that the fact that there's a little section that's faster makes it one of the greatest fights of all time at that point.
Yeah, you are very grateful to see it by that point. But finally getting out of some of those maps, we have the Tower of the Ancients. Where are we thinking?
Oh, that right. That is
I kind of want
okay.
to...
That's not the map I was thinking of, but it is. Yeah,
I say good,
same thing.
maybe. It
Tower of the
takes...
Ancients.
It takes a
Yeah,
long time, but you do kind of have these checkpoints that you gotta fight in. And then
the
this...
circling wyverns are a nice touch.
Yeah, that's really what elevates it, I think. That you get up here, there's a boss at the top of the ladder that you got to deal with, kind of in a one-on-one situation, unless you get some range support. And the wyverns that are circling around will come in and attack you, and that's kind of neat. That if you try to just cheese it with range or something, because I don't think the boss moves too much, the wyverns will come pick off your archer, whoever it is you have doing that.
At this point in the game, too, your characters are, I don't want to say over leveled, but they're basically invincible for this kind of battle.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this should be a C actually. I keep second guessing myself. You know what? I'm gonna be bold. I don't like it as much as these two. It goes here. That's my thought.
Yeah, it's fair.
Next, we have the Chaos Fight. And the Chaos Fight, if you haven't been able to tell, I'm not throwing things into C. I'm just moving it here to think. Okay, this one actually does have to have you have to deal with stuff coming at you from all sides immediately. And the boss does not wait for you. He actually runs at you. I think
Also,
this one is pretty fun.
Also, that is the introduction of new enemies at that point, which, and that's, I mean, I know you've got like the Steel Claws, the fight before, but this is really like once you see like all the robots, and it is a boss fight, and also, like you said, you're surrounded basically immediately. Plus, they've got really high defense, so, and they do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So it is a decently tough fight.
I think I'm happy with it here. I like it a little more than Michaela because you are just having to immediately deal with stuff on all sides. I like that challenge that you've got to react to all these things. And then the boss is not unfair, but he's not a pushover either. Unless you use the power ring, you can just breeze right through him, but that's neither here nor there. That's kind of everything at this point in the game.
I don't. Most people, I would say, first playthrough probably don't know that they could even use the power ring.
Yes. I can't imagine anybody not thinking about items that you can use. Moving on. After that, we have... What is this one?
That is the one heading down towards Runefaust. It's like the exact same thing as the battle beforehand, just longer.
Oh, yeah, and you've got Adam to disappoint you this time.
Yeah.
Um,
I got this really cool robot character. Oh, great, he can do 3 points of damage.
you know what? We're putting it in F. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th time you're seeing this kind of thing. F it goes. I just can't be interested in those anymore at this point. But when you do arrive in Runefaust, we have the first... Did they split it, actually? Let me check. They did.
Should be split, yeah.
Okay, so we have the first part of the Rumladu fight. This one...
Say C or B. It's... You're introduced to a bunch of new enemies. It is kind of like leading up to the penultimate boss fight, and
I'm tentatively
it's...
putting it here. But the reason it's tentative is the dodge rate on those blue dragons and chimeras.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane how high their dodge rate is. It's like 50% or something.
It's either
So
25 or 50, yeah.
I want to say it's 50. For me, it ends up being 50 or higher, but that gets really frustrating. But I like the map. I like the terrain, that there's these little pillars that you can kind of put your fighters in between. Gives you ranged fighters, some
Yeah,
cover.
from a combat perspective, you could either go up one side or you could split your party and go after the two different packs. So it does give you options.
We'll put it in B, but I don't like the dodge rate.
I don't think anybody
Next,
does.
the Rumladu fight. Um,
That one is. I would probably put it maybe A tier.
I have a. I was thinking a lot lower. I was thinking maybe actually right here. What's your reasoning for A tier?
So one leading up to it, um, it it is. This is the first, I guess, the first fight where it happens. Actually, no, it's not the first fight, but it's the first one where it matters that you didn't. There isn't like a break in between battles.
Yeah.
And then two, your characters start basically surrounded by the entire army that can of ancient killer robots that could obliterate you in like 2 turns.
Yes, but you can just run up and kill the boss instantly and not fight any of them.
But 90% of your party's also gonna die. I've done it both ways, and I think that is kind of the intended part of the fight where, yeah, you could run up at the boss,
True.
but you're dealing with like only a fraction of your party that's actually going to survive that onslaught, and those are really good. Just going to be your probably like 4-ish characters that have a movement range of 6 or more.
Hmm. I just don't think it's that good. Because I've had it go for me that I've been able to just kill Rimladu and just end it before it even gets going. So I don't think it's that bad, but I don't think it's that good. I'm feeling right here. It's okay.
I'd put it maybe top of C tier.
No. Because is it better? Like I'm just saying, is it better designed than the first boat fight or the quarry? And I'm like, no, no, it's just
In
not.
terms of visuals, no. In terms of combat, I would agree. Yes.
I would say in terms of combat, no, because the quarry has, like I said, it's got that unique way that you can just win it. Um, I don't know. I'm saying that this is better because you can just go kill the boss, but it's a little bit harder in the quarry because you can only do it with your birdmen. Here you can just run Max up there or whoever. Um, it just doesn't really feel like a whole map, and it's not. It's a part 2, but
That is fair. The map is.
it's just an empty map with some enemies at the bottom and the boss right above you, and you can just kill the boss. I don't think they put as much thought or design into this as they did the boat.
You know what I think it is?
What?
Now that I'm thinking about it, those two battles were probably designed to be a single battle, but they couldn't do a like cutscene mid battle
Yeah,
point.
you're right.
They didn't have as much control over cutscenes in
No,
Shining Force 1, so it
they didn't.
probably was split, or it was split just because the battle would be too long at that point.
Maybe. but I can only go by what they did, because if you egress from this part of the battle, it does start you back there.
Yes.
So it is a battle on its own, and it's an okay one. That's my thoughts. Next, we have... Really, it's just a string of bosses to the end at this point. We have the Colossus fight. The Colossus fight, I actually think is pretty good.
Yeah, I would definitely put it above Elliot.
I'm putting it, like, here
Yeah.
to think. I might put it higher. But my thought is, there's a just absolute onslaught at the beginning that you've got to figure out how to deal with.
And then you have 3 bosses that you're fighting.
Yeah, but you only have to kill one.
Yes.
But
But
it's
you're
hard.
not gonna know that first time around either.
It's also hard to... even if I'm going for, like, a really optimal run, I usually at least kill 2.
Yeah.
Because it's just difficult. There's different ways around to go. The enemies at this point are pretty difficult. Yeah, I think it's good. It makes you have to consider a lot of different things. Decide, you know, especially if you want to take this right path, is it worth the time loss for you to, you know, go around that whole way for a slightly easier fight? It's up to the player, and I like that. Next is the second to last fight, the Dark Soul fight. Let's think about where that's gonna go. And this one, if you egress from the fight after this, you actually do have to redo this one, don't you?
Yes.
I'm fairly positive. So it actually has them split, but I'm going to take them as one fight, because you do have to do them concurrently. And it's on the same map. You know, it is the same battle. It is just that kind of cutscene in the middle.
So the first one, I guess the most notable thing is you have to run past those torch eyes in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because there's no path to those side things unless you go up and around, and the boss is right there. So it is very much just a run to the boss and attack it and ignore all of the enemies. At least with the Elliot fight, that seems to be more of a player decision what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this fight, you really aren't given the option to just deal with the enemies first.
I think you are, because that's what I've done in the past. But they do make it a little bit more difficult because they're like behind walls and stuff.
Yeah.
Which, you know, feels like a final boss room. Like, the enemy's entrenched, they're waiting for you. I think it's cool. It's pretty hard. I like it more than this one. I like it more than this one. I like it more than Michaela. No, yeah, no, I don't. That's where it goes.
Oh, I would say the same thing.
But then we start to consider the second part. The second part is Dark Dragon. It's the final boss. Do I like this as a whole more than Michaela? No. I wondered if that would change how I felt, and the answer is no. Reason being, I like Michaela as a boss fight objectively more than Dark Soul, because she, at that point in the game, with your stats and everything, is a little bit scarier than Dark Soul. Dark Soul goes down decently easily. And I mean, he's not a challenge. Like, he's definitely hard, but I do think that they maybe didn't make him as hard as they could have, because they know that you're going to have to repeat it to fight Dark Dragon, and they didn't want to just have you do this absolute marathon, It's already marathon enough, but yeah. And then Dark Dragon you can separate and fight the 3 heads. But it does infinitely spawn enemies, which makes it harder, and does make you have to make difficult choices, like, do I constantly have to deal with this enemy to my left and right, or do I sacrifice 2 characters to go stand on the spawners so that it stops spawning things? I actually like this more than that. And because of that, actually, maybe I do like this fight more. I think I do like it more than Michaela because of that. Because of the spawners and stuff. I think Dark Dragon elevates the fight above Michaela. Even if she is technically better than Dark Soul. Am I happy with this?
If you're treating it as one fight, then I would say probably. If they're 2 separate fights, then Michaela is definitely better than Dark Soul.
For sure, but because you have to do it all at once, I do think it's one fight to me. Though I definitely, I remember playing this as a kid for the first time and being like, well, I want to heal. I lost some people, so I did egress and then came back and was like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah, I remember that. That sucked.
Yep. I think I probably stopped playing for the day. But it was also that I had very little time to play games as a kid, so it was like, I am not going to be able to do this entire thing again and more. I'm just not going to have the time for that. Do I like it less than the Chaos fight? Do I like it less than all these? I think so. I think this is the list that I'm going with. So, if we go down, the absolute worst fight in all of Shining Force, I think, is Battle 2, because it will make people drop out and not play the game, and there's nothing worse that a map can do, objectively. If a map you get to makes you stop playing the game, have no hope of it getting better, it has failed. It is the worst it can be. So that is the worst map of Shining Force 1, in my opinion. As we keep going up, we just have this block of all of these terrain battles. It gets real old. They blend together a little bit. Going through the desert, that just takes a little bit too long. The boat's just average, and you're doing it again. Subjectively, the Kane fight is pretty cool. I like this a lot, but objectively, it's just okay. Same with the Harbor. Same with Elliot. But it's true. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this list. I'm gonna keep looking here. The Quarry, I do think, is the top of okay. I don't love the Quarry fight, but I don't hate it. It's just okay. The Rumladu stuff, this starts to get fun. It's fun to conquer this fort. And I know fun is a subjective word, but you know what I mean. At least I hope you do. There's lots of different ways that it challenges you. There's different ways to approach things in all of these fights. The difficulty feels about right. It's not too hard, it's not too easy if you're not grinding. I'm happy with this being the top of B tier because it's a good length map. There's little diversions to make you send characters off in different ways to get chests if you want them, and you gotta make some choices. I think that the very first battle does get you to want to play more. It is a great intro because it lets you just play around and experiment, and it's not too hard. This is one of the early battles that I think Shining Force really shines in. Battle 4, where you get to go different ways. There's a mini boss fight. The Marionette, it's just a stage with a hard boss on it. It's pretty fun to bang your head against that wall when it's your first time. And the penalties for losing are not too high at that point. It's not a big run back. And all of the enemies are pretty scary. Here, all the enemies do a lot of damage to you at that point. You do little damage to them. The tension's very high with your main character potentially being attacked. And then the best fight in the game is easily, objectively, the laser eye. Because it introduces a mechanic that I haven't seen really in anything else, that fires a laser across this bridge, hurts friend and foe alike, and you just have to panically rush down this bridge and try and destroy it before it goes off again.
Or you could just skip your turn like 100 times for an hour, and then all the enemies on the bridge are dead.
I have done that. But it's fun, you know? I like when you give the player an option between, do you want to take more time and have it be easier, or do you want to, you know, play more efficiently and get that EXP and maybe lose a character, have it be more difficult? That's up to you. I think it's just the right amount of challenge. It has a surprise, but it telegraphs that surprise pretty well with the countdown. So that is my objective tier list for maps in Shining Force. Viewers, what do you think? You can, I was like, if you want to make your own tier list, you could just use this. Probably the most ideal way to do it is use this tier maker thing. I'll drop a link to this down in the description below. And I would love if you would share this on my Discord, which also I will have a link to that below. Share your tiers. And we'll, you know, if you want, maybe I'll do a follow-up video and I'll talk about the different things that you guys disagree with me on. That'd be really cool. So, also, you can put it in the comments below. I'd be cool with that. It just will take me longer to count through, you know, which battle's which, but I could open this as a guide. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. What battle is the best? What battle's the worst? Do you agree with mine and Chaos Wizard's takes? Do you think that we're totally full of it? Let me know in the comments below. And we will see you in the next one.